we as human beings gather confidence from others. And I think the confidence that so many people are looking for today is...
All right, welcome back to Everyday Elevations, the podcast where we transform ordinary moments into extraordinary outcomes. So today I'm super excited. I have my good friend Bobby here. I haven't done an in-person interview before, so this is going to be incredible. So first and foremost, thank you so much for coming out here and doing this. But before we get into everything, I want to give a little background on Bobby. Back earlier in my season, I had an episode on grit, and Bobby was the reason why I was able to actually attend Running Man Festival. So he's been a huge influence in my life. He got me out there. He helped cheer me on during the race, even while he was running a marathon. But more importantly, Bobby's just an amazing guy who builds amazing communities and an amazing father who I look up to for advice for that. He has a little more experience than me, and I have a newborn. With that, Bobby, dude, I just want to say thank you so much for being on here, and love to have you give a little bit of a background on yourself for people who don't know who you are.
Yeah, dude. Well, first off, thank you. I'm stoked to be here, stoked to talk to you. I love you. I am so thankful that our lives crossed paths, and how serendipitous of the way life works. And those things. So yeah, I'm stoked to be here. I think a little bit of background on me. What's up? I'm Bobby Capobianco. I'm 33 years old. I live in Denver, Colorado. I build communities, and I try to inspire people to shoot for more than they think they're maybe capable of. I think what's interesting is I think in all of life, we always sort of back into our sweet spots. I don't think it's one of those things where you make a big plan and then that just works and that's how you get to the place you're at. So my background is I'm an ex-college basketball player at 6'9" and 280 pounds. I didn't have much of a choice other than to be basketball, maybe football, something like that. But yeah, I played competitive sports my whole life. I think I learned a massive amount about myself and about the way people respond to things through that. And so I've been out in Colorado now for a little over 8 years, and I am currently running and building Full Circle, which is a social wellness community that activates in different places across the country and hopefully gives people a place to connect, experience some real friendships, some real interactions, some real experiences that otherwise in this kind of highly curated social world, I think falls a little flat on. So that's what I'm doing. I'm a husband. I'm a father of 2 awesome boys, and kind of making it up as I go.
No, I love it. I like how you're nonchalantly throwing I'm a father of 2. Like, dude, you do an amazing job. Like, when I was watching you with Huck when we first met, the first thing I remember was the hardest mile and me dying on the track and Huck just running over there like nothing, doing cartwheels, whatever he was doing, like cheering everybody on. I'm like, oh, I was like, whose kid is this? And then all of a sudden he comes up to you, I'm like, this makes sense. I was like,
yeah, I think children are the most amazing mirror that we can have for ourselves. And I think that thought in and of itself sort of stands on its own. But I think as a father, becoming a father changed my life more than I could have ever anticipated. And I think you hear that a lot of people say like, oh, kids change your outlook. But I think it really forced me to evaluate who I was, how I spoke to people, and my actions. And so I think that example of the world's hardest mile was a great one. I want my children to grow up seeing their dad go after things that he may not be ready for, he may not be capable of doing, but he's planning well, he's bringing people along with him, he's putting in the time and the effort, and it's cool. I mean, I think Huck now at 4 years old, he gets up in the morning and he literally says to my wife and I, Mom, Dad, what are we doing for exercise today? Because exercise is his... He connects that with, I get to be outside, I get to be with my parents, I get to move around, I get to experience the things that I want to experience. And so as a dad, that's a big weight of carrying that for him, but also a really proud moment of knowing that I'm showing him and teaching him those kind of things. So yeah, being a dad's great. And that's why I was so stoked for you guys and to watch what you're doing in your life and knowing how that gets passed down to your kids. And I think it's such a special thing to get to do.
Yeah, 100% agree. And like you said, everyone tells you it changed their life, but you don't really grasp it until you actually have a kid. So like for me, I realized that I can have a lot more fun in life once I just looked at how my kid was just looking at the most simple things. He loves fans, loves them. Don't know why, but you turn a fan on, a ceiling fan, and this kid is amused for hours on end. He'll just keep looking and smiling and chuckling. Oh, yeah. And I'm like, why can't we all just do that? Yeah. As adults, we rarely sit there and look at things in the light of a child where it's like, hey, this is something new to experience. That's what I love about parenthood, is just seeing that. And of course, like you, I want to be an amazing example for my son, which is why I do get involved with the Full Circle events, I do the workouts, and why I'm doing Ragbri here in the future, here in a couple months. God, that's coming up quick. July 20th to 27th.
Oh, yeah.
But that's the thing. That's my whole motivating factor. Heck, my kid, as all listeners know already, is why I started this podcast. I need to show up different than when I was showing up at that moment. And I said, what's the way to hold yourself accountable?
Yeah.
Podcast came to me.
Yep.
And here we are.
Here we are. Yeah, if you say it here, you have to stick to it forever because it lives on the internet, and that's where things go. And I also think too, like, I think as a parent, there's something really important of you're easily turning yourself constantly into, I need to teach my child. But when you can pause just long enough to realize, like, wow, they have so much to teach me, you as a parent begin to flourish, your life begins to flourish. And just that simple idea, and talking about Full Circle, like one of the core concepts behind what we're doing is trying to foster a place where being present is better than experiencing life, thinking about the future, experiencing life through social media, wondering what other people are doing. And when you think about your children, you put them down in a room and their brain immediately goes to, how can I get the most out of where I'm at? What can I get into? What can I climb on top of? Or if you're even just in the car by yourself, your kids are just, their brains are going wild about asking questions and trying to understand what's happening. And I think as adults, we at some point think like, oh, I've got it all figured out. Like, I know how life works. And even though I'm sitting in this room podcasting with you right now, am I thinking about work? Am I thinking about where I have to go to after this? Am I doing those other things? And our kids teach us, like, the most important is like when you're somewhere with a friend and you get to just be in this moment together, you get to just be here. And like you and I right now are having this tiny little slice of reality in this moment. And I think our children embody that every day. And so as a parent, if we can just hit the brakes, slow down for a second and realize like our kids don't always want something from us. They want us to be in the room with them. They want us to be in the moment with them. And we as adults, we as people in the internet world, we live hundreds of thousands of miles away through somebody else's vacation pictures, or we live in fear of the future because so-and-so just got a promotion and probably makes way more money than me, or so-and-so looks really fit, and all of a sudden I'm feeling self-conscious. We're never in our own shoes in the spot that we're inhabiting. So I think our children are such an amazing sort of true north to how life should be experienced.
So I love the fact you talked about that right there, because I just did an interview recently with a gentleman by the name of Guy Monroe, and he talked about the fact that as adults, we essentially have two hands, right? Two different versions of ourselves. We have the adult version where it's like task-oriented. I got to give this speech. I have to have this meeting. I have to worry about whether or not it goes over well. I got to make sure that I'm paying these bills. Yep. So you lose a lot of the fun aspect of your life. He said where people truly succeed is when they bring in the childlike wonder, the amusement. And of course he started making like Jim Carrey face and stuff, and I was trying so hard not to laugh on that because it's just, he was so good about bringing that out. You're like, I know exactly what you're talking about. He talked about like tasting the things you say and bringing like a childlike wonder to that. So when you mentioned that, my mind went right there. It's so interesting how we as adults forget like how to just pull it back in and just be. Yep. And that's why, again, like you said, it's why I love having kids. But you mentioned Full Circle. I want to talk a little about that because I never fully got the story as to how that started. I know we talked very briefly at Running Man, but I wasn't a human being by the time we started talking. I was beaten up, and I'm sure you were too.
26 miles is a long way to go on your own feet. The genesis of Full Circle, like anything, I started this by saying, like, a lot of times you back into the passion, the things. This is a very brief kind of tangent. When COVID hit, I had a internet TV show that I was doing. It started completely randomly. I had a friend ask me if I could join their live on Instagram. I'd never done it before. So I went and I hit live thinking I was gonna something was gonna happen. I didn't know I had to be invited to it. And so I just started broadcasting myself sitting in my basement waiting for this thing to happen. And I had a bunch of people join watching me sitting there, and I'm like, hey mom, hey friend, hey, I'm like, what's going on? So I started this show. I joked with my wife. I'm like, hey, I have a TV show now, and we do it. And I literally just started for no reason other than interviewing my friends. And what was interesting was I called that kind of show thing I did 6 degrees from nobody. And the thought is in this world, there's that idea that you're 6 degrees away from anyone in the connection of if I know you, you know Dan, Dan knows somebody else. I can connect myself through 6 degrees to almost anybody in the world. And I thought, man, when you build communities, when you do marketing, when you do sales, when you do a lot of these jobs, it is so easy to feel like a nobody. It's so easy to feel like I don't know the right people. I'm not having the right things happen to me. I'm not moving my life forward the way that I want to. And so that was why I named it 6 degrees from nobody, because it can feel like that world can shrink down. But that's not the reality. That's a perceived experience of what we all go through. And so the genesis of Full Circle was really that me and my business partner, Sean Greenspan, have a marketing company that works with health and wellness brands around the country, doing social media growth, doing email marketing, doing ambassador programs, those types of things. So we were really connected in that world. We also have a talent agency where we have influencers and athletes and content creators who are providing the content and all these things for a lot of the brands that we were working with. And what we really realized is that the thing that those brands needed, the thing that the creators needed, was a place for sort of those flowers to grow, the content to happen, the people to experience the brand, for those kind of things to happen. And what we said was look, there's all sorts of activations and events and all these kind of things. And we said, how do we create something that services all of those needs, but does so in a way where people can leave feeling like, wow, I really experienced that. I met some people. I had a girl once who I was somewhere and she was telling someone else about Full Circle, and I was within earshot. And I heard her say something that has stuck with me. She said, I've only been to 4 events, but I feel like my friend group has tripled, because all the people that are there are the people that I would want to be friends with anyway. And so when we started Full Circle, we did so really as an idea of how do we service the brands and the creators and the people that we want to have this place where these things can happen. And what we really realized was we were backing into something significantly greater than that, which was building communities and connecting people and doing so in a way that added value to everyone around them. And somebody that we both know here in Denver, Eric Hinman, has one of my favorite lines ever where he says, I'm either collecting the dots or I'm connecting the dots. And we thought wow, what if we could build a place that you could do both? That you could connect the dots for other people, you could connect with new people that are in your same world, same place. And so Full Circle really came about as a place to throw events, but it has really quickly, it is today a community of people who are, it's a social wellness club. And the only barrier for entry is, are you somebody who's working on themselves? Are you striving for something more? And do you want to be around people who are looking for the same thing? And so that's where it started. And it's crazy. We're in 4 cities. I think we threw 15 events last month across the country. And 6 months ago, it was an idea on a whiteboard in my basement.
Yeah, it's crazy how quick because again, I remember the conversation at Running Man where it was still kind of you were more close to having it ramped up, but it's still a theoretical idea at the moment. So seeing where it's at now, you have the run clubs, you have the Alt Fridays, which are incredible. Obviously the Saturday events, which I believe we have one
this Saturday. Yeah, we've got a women's only group. And I think what's really cool about community is when you give people the space to come together and to connect, the community then it echoes, it builds itself. You get a group of people who have similar desires, have similar interests, and all of a sudden, if you're teaching them how to connect, if you're showing them the way of really genuinely loving on each other and being in a place where things can come out of, new opportunities approach all the time. Ashley Randall came to me and said, hey, how do we launch a women's group that I want to own and do and pour into these women? That's great. The Run Club, Christian and Sam and Sierra said, this is something we're really passionate. You and I have talked about a gravel bike club where we do different things like that. So what's really cool is when you create the space, you're really just giving people the tools to connect, and you're giving them the confidence to do something that most people otherwise won't do. That's why, like, if I said, guys, I'm having a party at my house this weekend, come over and have dinner, most everybody's going to go, that sounds awesome. I'd love to come. But again, most people don't do those. Also, like, you can only have a certain amount of people there. So why not do something in a bigger place, in a gym setting, in a restaurant, in an event space where we can bring tons of people together who are just looking for that, like, I'm going to go hang out with my friends, and whatever happens there is fine because I know I'm with the people I want to be around. So I think that's the brilliant part about community, is how it sort of builds itself if you lay the right groundwork.
Oh, absolutely. And see, my biggest thing to take away from Full Circle events is just kind of like what you mentioned with person talking about how they built their friend group from there. Similar to me, like I gained so many friends. I was pretty solo in Denver minus the fiance just because I focus only on work, but Full Circle helped me meet new people. So now I hang out with people like Jensen, yourself. I wish Mika wasn't leaving, but he is moving to Naples or whatever. He actually, one of the first things he said after the first one, he's like, why didn't I find you guys months earlier? So I think what you're doing is ridiculously cool and amazing and needed. It's weird that it isn't more common right now. Like, thinking about why wouldn't more of these groups do that? Because we get to build, like, by we, because I help out.
You're a we 100% through and through.
All right.
You're one of the OG. Yeah. If anybody has any questions, Jason is literally, you know how companies have like employee number 2. You're like Full Circle member number 1. I mean, I think that was, you were on the train before anybody else even knew it was a train.
Yeah, I just remember reaching out. I was like, hey, whatever it is, I'm in.
Yep.
Because you mentioned something like, cool, just tell me what you need me to do. And been grateful ever since. Actually got the fiance coming out this weekend. So that's another thing. Like, you talk about building community, but you're also not just building community at the gyms. You're building outside life communities. Like, you see some of these people who consistently come to our the events you throw on, right? So Sierra and them, Danielle, they all became like close friends. They probably wouldn't have met otherwise. Just happened. I mean, maybe they would. I don't know. I don't know their gym lives. Sure. But the things that like you and Sean and Full Circle are doing is ridiculously cool, and I think very underrated. I just love that you guys put this together and we get to have, like, see it blossom. It's the coolest thing to me. I'm just going on a really long tangent because I just want to let you know how amazing this is. I hope you understand that you're changing fitness by making it social.
The Full Circle slogan is "Make Health Social," and I think that's such a surface level thing, and it's also such an incredibly deep thing when you kind of break into it. And I think what people are really looking for in life is, like, we as human beings gather confidence from others. And I think the confidence that so many people are looking for today, post-COVID, COVID was one of the greatest things that could have happened recently for communities. I know there were a lot of people that suffered from it. I don't mean it was great in that thing. I think what it did was it isolated people enough to a point where they had to break down all of their preconceived notions about how they spend time, who they spend time with, how lonely we all really are. Social media, again, makes us feel like we're connected to every person we've ever known, but we don't connect with them. We just look at them. We're viewing the world out of this little small hole of, like, well, I wonder what everybody else is doing. And so I think my gift in life, and the thing that I feel like I'm here to do, is to give other people the confidence to love each other and to connect and to be vulnerable enough to experience humans in the way the humans were meant to experience each other. And I think leading with that piece of, man, I'm an open book, and you know this, if you get me, you get my wife Elizabeth, you get my son Huck, you get my son Revel, you get my community of people, because it's not about me. I appreciate the words you've said about all the things that I can do. I can't do any of those things without my wife. My wife is my rock. She's also my best friend in the entire world. And this is a shout out to you, Elizabeth. Yesterday was 9 years of marriage. Yesterday was our 9-year wedding anniversary. And I think back about that. I think about all the things that we've done and the things that I've gotten to do. And so many of those things come because I have this amazing foundation at home. And the reason I say that is because I think the thing that you're elaborating on for Full Circle is we're trying to create a genuine feeling of family. We used to live in a place that did that for itself. I was at church the other day, and the pastor said something that has stuck with me just so thickly, which is, we learn in rows, but we grow in circles. And that concept we are taught from the day we start going to school. You notice kids in preschool sit at round tables. Kids in high school sit in chairs that are in these neatly organized rows back to front. I think we're getting away from this thought of having to live communally, where we rely on each other for the skills we have, for the things we can do, for the way we care for each other's children, the way we build into that. And so Full Circle, pun intended, it's a circle of people where instead of standing there looking at the back of the head of the person in front of you in class and the teacher way up in front, we're all looking inward. And I think the thing that the community is realizing is by doing that, we're able to get so much more out of it. We're able to connect, we're able to grow. And so I think that's such an important factor of what we're trying to do. And I think you can attest to that there's a high opportunity for growth when you're just in a situation that looks different than the way everything else is set up.
Oh, 100%. I've grown exponentially just by being associated with you at this point and hanging out with the people you hang out with. So one of the smartest bits of advice I ever got in my life was to surround yourself with people that you want to become, or that have the skills that you want to become. Like for you, you're this big, amazing, lovable, open-hearted guy and an amazing dad. So I knew from the day we met at All Day Running Company, I was like, all right, I'm going to latch myself to this guy's hip whether he likes it or not. And eventually we're going to become friends and we're going to figure stuff out in life. I was like, and here we are.
Where we are.
We're doing a podcast.
Where we are.
But like that's the thing. Like that's what's so cool about what you're doing. I am curious though. So you have Full Circle. I just have a feeling you as a human being, you probably have other irons in the fire, so to speak. Is there anything else you're looking to do in the future? Or you don't have to say anything if you can't talk about it, but
the really cool answer is that I don't know. And I feel really confident saying that. I still have a day job. Just for anybody who looks at things, it's easy to say like, look at all this cool stuff I do. I travel around the country, I throw events, I'm building communities. That's great. I have a 9-to-5 that I do every day. And part of that is like, as you're building things, you have to make certain sacrifices. And I think that's one of those things. But I really have struggled recently in sort of my own identity. I think it's one of those things where when you do a lot of stuff, especially public facing, you sort of have multiple personalities. It's one of those things when I walk into a room at a Full Circle event, you know this, you see me in lots of parts of my life. It's not that I'm a different person. It's just a different version of Bobby that is at the front of those events running them, being that person for a lot of people versus like who I am in other places. And I think it's easy to fall really deep into that imposter syndrome of like, is this really who I am? Is it authentic to what I think and who I want to be? But I think one of the things I've really tried to do is I've really tried to lately dive into the unknown of that, to know that Full Circle is growing at a rapid pace and experiencing incredible momentum. I'm hopeful that that's something that I can really put all my eggs in that basket and nurture that thing and create it for what it needs to be. I also have a job that I do right now with a guy that I love, that I want to honor, and that I do that all the time. It sounds a little woo-woo, but I'm somebody who personally is super comfortable in the unknown. My whole life has felt that way. I'm very comfortable not knowing what's going to happen. But at the same time, as a father, as a husband, as somebody who has to pay a mortgage once a month, unknown is very scary. You talk about the two hands of those things. But the reason I say that is like, I've got lots of ideas. I've got lots of things that I want to do. I've got areas and ways that I want to take full circle, that I want to take my own life, that I want to do more. I want to do more speaking engagements. I want to host retreats and take people to experiencing things. I've got lots of ideas, but I know right now that I can feel the current of my life. Like I'm in the river, I'm on my like little floaty tube, and I don't know where that river goes. Like I cannot see around the bend, but I'm in the current. I feel it. Like I've got my feet down in the water, and I know that every day I'm stacking little bricks here and there that I have no idea what they're going to turn out to be. But I know that down the road, like that's a house I'm going to live in, and I'm okay with that. And I think so. I'd love to sit here and like tease a bunch of stuff of like, I've got all these cool ideas coming. I don't know yet, and I'm okay with that.
Nothing wrong with it. Mostly, I was just curious because I just know who you are as a person. I know odds are you probably had something you maybe even thought of at the moment, but there's nothing wrong with the unknown. It's actually interesting that you're so comfortable with the unknown because most people aren't. Most people get really nerve-wracked with that, and that's usually where a lot of stress comes from because they don't know how to handle things that they can't control. No. I used to be that person. I was prior military, so very high-strung, very regiment-oriented. So if there's anything that took me on a detour, I pretty much just start twitching and freaking out, and getting angry. Then I realized, life's way too short to be that person anymore. And so that's kind of where I'm in the same boat as you. Like I kind of go with the flow of things. Now I still need to have a little bit more of stuff ahead of me. I'm not quite your level of comfort, but I think that part is really cool that you're so good with that. And the energy you bring for everything is amazing.
Well, I think one of the really important things is like basketball taught me something that I don't think I could have ever learned in my life had it not been for basketball. And that was that my ego is something that lives inside of me that I can both honor and completely ignore. I think my sophomore year of college in basketball was one of the hardest years I've ever had in my whole life. And if you looked at it from the outside, you would have had no idea. I was really struggling with who I was and where I was at, and was this the right situation? And I've worked my whole life to get here. But yet, you see it, and Indiana's playing a home game against anybody. And there I am out in warm-ups. There I am in the game. There's 18,000 people. The place is sold out. I'm living the dream. But I had to reconcile that against all the things I felt all the time when the lights weren't on. And so I think I really foundationally came to a place where like I understood who Bobby is and the things that matter to me. And I can very easily disassociate like my job. Yes, I have to do that to pay the bills, but that does not affect who I am as a father, as a husband, as a friend. It has no impact on those things. So I can do those things well. I can have a confidence in those things. And I think the other thing is like when you can disassociate that, and as a military guy, I learned this from somebody who I heard talk about this with a guy who was a Navy SEAL when they talked about anxiety. And he said, whenever you're feeling anxious, write a list of all the things you're feeling anxious about, then take a big permanent marker and scratch through everything you don't have control of. And then only look at those other things. And what you'll find is if you write 10 or 15 things down, there's like 3 that you have any control of. Yeah. We're anxious about the things we don't have control of, which is hilarious because we're anxious about something we don't dictate the outcome for. So I think those are just important. I think those are important things. That's a practice I have of like, I feel nervous about work all the time and I'll write down all the things I'm stressed about and then I'll go, well, somebody else is doing that and that's not mine. And I've already done that. And okay, cool. The list has 3 things. I knock those out and all of a sudden I feel a lot better. So yeah, I think that's something really important for people to just try to figure out in their own life. Like find a foundation of who Jason is, who Bobby is, and just live from that place. And a lot of those other things will start to slowly melt away.
Nice. I love that. So I remember you telling me about the tip. And it's something I've been doing for years. I didn't realize it's a military thing.
It might not be. I heard it from a guy who's in this. If a SEAL's doing it,
it's probably something taught. It's probably legit.
Yeah.
But just because of the fact that I think I watched a YouTube video and someone mentioned something similar along those lines, I was like, this makes perfect sense. And then you realize how inconsequential the things that are bothering you are. So that's an amazing tip. I kind of want to go back to the community here just because one of the things I like to do for the audience is give them tips on how to better themselves. In this case, since you are the I'm going to call you the guru of community building. So now you have something to live up to. No pressure.
Yeah, no pressure.
So when someone's looking for a community, what type of tips would you recommend them? And just anything in general.
Say yes. Say yes. It's a very easy thing. I can't remember is it Yes Man, the Jim Carrey movie where he says, I'm going to say yes to everything. And then like all of a sudden his life flourishes and he like learns a new language. He goes to a pottery class. He meets his like future love interest. That movie's great because at a core concept, like say yes. And then I'll also go back to what you said earlier about finding people there's a great statistic that says that they monitored people who are living in different communities, and it turns out that household income, when you look at the people they spend time with, the 5 families that a specific family will spend time with, their income ranges like 10% among those people. And so that simple idea of like, find the people you want to be more like and spend time where those people spend time with those people, do those kind of things. And so I think if you're looking for community, it's out there. Like it's out there. And the other cool part about that is like, so say yes, go do these things. But I heard a great quote. I wish I remembered who said it. It said, if you don't feel like there's a seat at the table, screw them. Build your own table and invite people to join you. And I think that simple concept of like, if you're looking for community, instead of saying, I have no idea where to find people in Tampa, Florida, the Twin Cities, Tempe, Arizona, wherever you are, start a community. Like, are you into running? Start a run club. Do you like to do pottery? Invite your friends over and throw some clay. Like whatever your thing is, like be the thing that you want to see. And I know that's scary for a lot of people. That's not an easy tip because most people go, oh, that's so easier said than done. I have work, I have a family, I have all of these things. But you quickly realize that there are so many people that are so desperate for it the same way you are, that if you'll just light the spark, the fire will very quickly grow and take over. So yeah, be the change you want to see, I think is the kind of overarching concept. And then also like, there's great people out there. Start it with your friends. Set up a book club, get a pen pal. Like who knows? Like literally, like it's funny, but like those are the things. Like just invite your friends over and say, hey, once a week we're gonna come do a puzzle together. It doesn't matter. Just like find that in a little micro way, and then you'll experience that in a much more macro sense.
Love it. This makes perfect sense, by the way. It definitely, you saying that, I'm like, yep, that's definitely a Bobby answer to that. I love it. Well, we're getting a little closer to the end of this podcast here. So what I like to do is ask just a couple questions because I love to see people's perspective on these. And one of the things I like to ask is this first question here. It's, if you could be known by any quote, whether it's on your epitaph, just like perfectly describes you, what would that quote be? I
have some quotes that I love to live by. One of them, there's an amazing quote. It's long and I can't recite the entire thing. It's by a guy named L.P. Jacks. And he talks about how a man living in his perfect harmony is constantly working and playing. And that to him, it makes perfect sense. And it's left up to everyone else to try to figure out what he's doing, because to himself, he's doing both. That's something I really try to live by. I try to like soak up those things. But I think if I could have a quote that people remembered me by, it would be, I love you, man. We just don't tell each other we love each other enough. And like we are taught from an early age that love is this like sacred thing that you hold on to, that if you like give it out, you're gonna run out at some point. Like it's thought about as this like precious little thing, but love is a river, man. Like when you let it out, there is an endless amount more that comes. And I think just like doing something and being able to go, hey, I love you. Thank you for having me on that podcast. Thank you for being my friend. Thank you for showing up when time sucks. That thought, we just don't practice it enough. And that's what I want people to remember Bobby by. That he loved his family. He loved his friends. He loved every day that he got, because that's all I got.
And for those who don't know Bobby or do know Bobby, you know that he is the first person to give you a big old hug when you come up and tell you he loves you. So this is along the lines of the quote I figured you'd come out with. It makes perfect sense. It describes you to a T and how you carry yourself.
Thank you.
Oh, thank you. Are you kidding me? You're here on the podcast. All right, I have one last question.
Okay.
And I have a feeling I know the initial answer, but I'm curious what the secondary answer to the question is. So what would you consider to be your superpower currently? And if you could have any superpower, what would that be? So it's a two-parter.
So my superpower is joy. My superpower is joy. I am incredibly joyous all the time. I am like naturally stoked about everything. It's just it's inside of me. I just like, you can't get me down. I have like 3 or 4 days a year where I'm like crabby and whatever. And I fought that for a long time. Like I literally fought that. I was like, am I faking it? Like, can I just be happy all the time? Am I running away from something? Like, am I shielding myself from dealing with my own reality? And then quickly my own reality unfolded to a place of like, no, it's okay to be really stoked about things. It's okay to be a dreamer. It's okay to just suck the marrow out of every opportunity. And so I want to give that away. I want to give that away to everybody that I'm with. It goes along with the like loving on people. Like my superpower is joy. My superpower is that I like the worst thing can happen and I'm going to go, oh, guess we're not doing that. What else should we do? Like, okay, cool. Like that sucked. Like I really hated that, but it is what it is. And like, look at where we are now. And so I think that's that. If I could have a superpower, it would absolutely be like teleportation. Like just like the movie Jumper, where you just like pop over, like let's shoot to Paris and grab a croissant and a cup of coffee. Let's shoot over and spend time with this person. That'd be my superpower. It'd just be super cool.
Yeah, I'm with you. Date night in Dubai.
That's what I'm saying. Just like pop over, do something, come back. That's not a very deep answer, and it's intentionally not, because it just is what it is. I'd love to be able to go wherever I wanted to instantly.
So if you had a non-comic book superpower, what would that be?
It'd be the ability to show everybody the future. And what I mean by that is not the future of like, I'm going to show you the day you die. I'm going to show you those kind of things. What I mean more by that is like, one of my favorite quotes is, don't sweat the small things. And when you do that, you'll realize most things are small things. My superpower would be to just calm people down, to know that everything's going to be okay. Like I view myself as an incredibly optimistic person, but also like I 100% believe that nothing is real, nothing matters, and we all die. And that is such a freeing thing. Like we're in this room, like this podcast could reach 4 people, or it could reach 4 million people. And guess what? Doesn't matter, because this moment is just here. It's just the conversation you and I are getting to have. Yeah. Like this is the thing. Like I already got it. Who cares? Who cares? Nothing's real. The internet's not real. Like, none of this is real. Who cares? I got to have this moment with you, and I love you, and you're one of my friends, and I want to be in these places. And so I think just that ability to like tell the people who we all know are friends, they tweak out, they family members who fear lives in the future. Fear lives in the future. And I like wish I could just give somebody a hug and them go like, oh, cool. It's all going to work out. I'm going to be okay. Like that would be my superpower.
Yeah, I think you kind of already have that superpower, by the way. You're just not giving yourself enough credit. But with you saying that, like people always looking towards the future, things like that, it reminds me of Jesse Itzler. My favorite quote ever by him is just be where your feet are. When he first said that, honestly, I probably wanted to punch the guy, because we're in the middle of doing a obstacle course, and I'm doing it on a sprained knee. He's like, be where your feet are. I'm like, you better hope you're not by my feet. Keep in mind, I was 320 pounds, out of horrible shape, bad mentality. I went out there on a whim. Yep. And he said that phrase, and like it took until probably about 3 months ago for me to realize what he actually meant. Just enjoy the moments. Yep. But with that, dude, I'm just so grateful for you being on here. Had a lot of fun conversing with you. This is probably the most tangents I've gone on personally on these, so it's been a lot of fun. That's why I like talking to people who I know, because we have a little bit more different conversations, a little less structure than what I would have. And for me, that's where the real fun comes from. It doesn't always have to just be that business platform that I kind of have going. But yeah, dude, I'm so grateful for you. Before we sign off here, just let people know where they can find you at, best way to get in contact with you if they want to be a part of Full Circle.
Yeah, cool. So I think the best way to get in contact with me is probably through Instagram. Big Bob Capo, C-A-P-O, easy to remember there. And also check out Full Circle Events. The Instagram there is full.circle.events. We throw awesome community activations in Denver, New York City, Austin, Texas, Southern California. We've got an amazing crew. If you want to just come and experience something in a way that you just don't get in a lot of other places, come hang out, come see it. I tell people all the time, like, once you've felt it, you get it, and you will want more of it. And that's the whole point is, if you're interested, look, if you're a community builder, if you're somebody who desires community, I'd love to talk to you. That's my entire passion in life. I'd love to help you figure out a way to expand yourself, expand your community, expand your friend group. Hit me up. I will talk to anybody for any amount of time, almost any time of the day, except for bath time. I'm like very busy at night giving little kids baths. But yeah, that's where I'm at. Full Circle's got some amazing events coming up. If you're specifically in Denver this month, we're filming this on May 2nd. So if you're coming up, check the event calendar. We've got a ton of stuff. June 1st, we'll be at the Strength in the City Festival. Come back and hang out at the Full Circle Lounge. Get some goodies, meet some amazing people, listen to some people speak. It's going to be really rad. So yeah, that's where we're at.
Sweet. Stoked for all the events coming up. I can't wait, man. All right, with that, please, if you can do me a favor, if you enjoyed this episode, just like, subscribe, leave a detailed review. Let me know what you liked, what resonated with you, what you'd like to hear more about. And then you can follow me on Instagram at Everyday Elevations. I'm also on Facebook under my name, Jason Fricka. And I have a blog post coming out. It'll be everydayelevationspodcast.com. So feel free to go to that site and sign up. You'll be getting newsletters weekly here starting in June. And other than that, just thank you so much for tuning in.